The Great Debate Series. Most disappointing team ever.
And Doug nailed it with this
Doug
liner.
adds a gravity to that liner. It's like,
it is great.
Ever.
Because we basically changed our minds to do this yesterday. So we appreciate him doing this on the fly. A little peek behind the curtain there. So I'm going first here. My most disappointing team in NFL history is the 1997 Dallas Cowboys. This was in the height of the dynasty, right? So you won in 92, you won in 93, at least got to the conference championship game in 94. You won it again in 95. 96, you lost the divisional round. And then here comes 1997, where it felt like nobody on the Cowboys could get on the same page. It was still Aikman, it was still Smith, it was still Irvin, but it was infighting. It was the last year of Barry Switzer, where he ends up, I believe, resigning at the end of the year. They go 6-10. They miss the playoffs completely. There was a lot of stuff going on off the field in the season preceding this, and then obviously bleeding into this season, right? I mean, I don't know if I have to rehash all of that for you, but a lot of legal trouble.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of
drugs.
A lot of drugs, allegations of drugs, allegations even a little bit more serious than that, especially for Michael Irvin and Eric Williams. They end up getting cleared of those allegations. This was the first time that they had a losing record since 1990. And then the other part about this, now Deion Sanders did break a rib late in the season here, so I guess maybe that's a little bit of an excuse, but Perloff, also why this is disappointing is what it set off. So Switzer is gone after that. Then they go to Chan Gailey for 2 years. Then Dave Campo for 3 years.
Yeah.
Then Bill Parcells for 4 years. Then Wade Phillips for 3 years until they get to Jason Garrett for 9 years. It was like they just couldn't find any consistency on the coaching front until they actually waited too long to fire Jason Garrett. So to me, 1997 Cowboys, a 6-10 season and missing the playoffs, is the most disappointing team in history.
Yeah, I guess my only problem with that is, who is their coach again?
Barry Switzer.
And what league was this? Was this college football?
Well, he had won a Super Bowl and gotten
Kinda. I mean,
gotten back to the divisional round the next year.
I mean, come on. He was not fit to lead this team at that time.
12-4, then 10-6.
Yeah, I felt like the wheels were coming off that Dallas one. Yeah, that was incredibly disappointing. The 94 season was also disappointing when they had beaten San Francisco twice, and then I think they lost the Niners in 94.
Yep, in the conference championship.
Yeah, I mean, that was a classic dynasty derailed because they had so many personal problems. Boys Will Be Boys, isn't that the Jeff Pearlman book, and all the crazy stuff that was going on?
Well, and also Aikman and Switzer weren't getting along, and
yeah.
Switzer would kind of air out Aikman in press conferences and stuff.
Once again, go back to Troy Aikman's Oklahoma days. Okay, my most disappointing team actually had a lot more success on the field than yours, but they were disappointing because of what had happened previously and what had happened after. I'm going with the 1986 Chicago Bears. Now, in my opinion, the 85 Bears are the greatest NFL team, maybe the greatest team aside from, I guess, the 27 Yankees of all time. They were very famous, 15-1. They had a Super Bowl shuffle. Walter Payton on the offense, Jim McMahon at quarterback, all-time defense. So you would have thought that's what? First of 5 championships, first of 6, 7 Super Bowls. They were the new Steelers. They were so on top of the world, there's no way they could lose. So they go out. They're 14-2 the following year, but it doesn't look right. Buddy Ryan, their defensive coordinator, who was carried off on players' shoulders after the Super Bowl win, gone. He goes to Philadelphia. The defense is still incredibly good, but the offense is so bad. Jim McMahon went 6-0 as a starter. In those games, he threw 5 touchdowns and 8 interceptions.
Aye.
He actually got taken out by that Packers guy. That dirty hit, I think his name was Martin. I'm sorry, I don't have the name off the top of my head. So Jim McMahon falls apart. Somehow Doug Flutie ends up there. They lose in their opening round playoff game against the Washington, then Redskins. The dynasty, not only did it not become a dynasty, it didn't even come close. They totally fell apart. If you ever watched the documentary, the 30 for 30 on that Bears team, it was classic, just like your Cowboys team. It was, they could not handle winning. Egos got in the way. Buddy Ryan and Mike Ditka, the room was not big enough for both of them. Ditka made a lot of mistakes. Offensively, they were a disaster. It should have been the start of a dynasty, and it was not. So even though they were 14-2, that is my most disappointing.
Oh, my God. a 14-2 team that makes the playoffs is your most disappointing team of all time?
Disappointing. That is heartbreaking.
It went 14-2.
Yeah. I would also put that 15-1 pack. Was the Packers 15-1 the year after Aaron Rodgers won? Yeah, they were unbelievably disappointing too. I think it's more disappointing.
All time, and they won 14 games and made the playoffs, and that's an all-time disappointing team. I feel like that can't be there is no criteria. This is artist's choice,
Right.
dealer's choice for Perloff and I. But I mean, a team that makes the playoffs inherently is not a disappointment, right?
You think, okay, you know who else I put on there? The 16-0 Patriots. They're incredibly disappointing.
Well, that's because they were going for like immortality.
So was this Bears team.
But
They were the greatest team ever.
Okay.
Ever. The greatest team in the history of football. And they can't even win a playoff game the next year? Isn't that disappointing?
no, but at least they were like a winning team that did get back to the playoffs. I don't know. You and I have much different definitions of what most disappointing means.
Yeah, I
I think
mean,
most disappointing. That's why I put the Cowboys. They didn't even make the playoffs that year after they had been a dynasty. It's like they fell apart.
I just know so many people historically look at the lost opportunity of the 85 Bears into the 86 Bears. It was, and every single thing that could go wrong that season did go wrong. Even though they won a ton of games, their defense was still all time. It was just heartbreaking for not just Bears fans. I think there are a lot of neutral fans who love that team as well.
So one of the things that I tried to stay away from just when I was looking at most disappointing teams, any team where the quarterback was injured, I took that away. I don't know how you decided to come up with your team. You know, we just talked it over a little bit, but I discounted any team where it's like, oh, you know, your quarterback, went down in week 3, so you ended up missing the playoffs. I didn't count those teams. I don't know if you factored those teams in.
You mean like Tom Brady broke his leg? And
No, I was
against the
thinking
Chiefs?
like one of those Rich Gannon Raiders teams, like the year after they lost in the Super Bowl, and didn't Gannon get hurt, I believe, the next year? So it's like, I can't say they're the most disappointing because you get hurt.
Well, I mean, listen, let's look at this year. The Rams are the worst defending champion in the history of Super Bowls. Nobody looks at them as, I don't think they make any list of disappointing because for some reason our expectations had lowered on that Rams team.
I think because they were like, F them picks. This is all about one season.
Yeah,
it's like, and here it is, and that was your
and
season.
Stafford got hurt, and Cup was whatever. It just seemed like
Even
it just.
They
before
flew
that.
Baker Mayfield in to start a game. He's learning the playbook on the plane.
And Perloff, I'm really surprised that there's one team that you didn't go with, or maybe I'm not that surprised with one team that you didn't go with. The most disappointing team of all time, without question, is the Dream Team 2011 Philadelphia Eagles. They brought in Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, Nnamdi Asomugha, Vince Young, Ronnie Brown, Evan Mathis, Steve Smith, Jason Babin. With Michael Vick, they had Chip Kelly at the helm. That was supposed to be, or was that Andy Reid? Maybe.
It was still Andy Reid.
I think it was still Andy Reid.
Yeah.
That was a team that
The
was
end of
supposed to like go undefeated, win everything. Your backup quarterback is Vince Young. Oh my goodness, Michael Vick. It's going to be so perfect. They're going to have them both in the backfield at the same time. They can run the ball everywhere. LaShawn McCoy was there, and they sucked.
And they called themselves a dream team, which immortalizes them. That
One guy did. Vince Young did. I mean, Vince Young.
Yeah, but nobody stepped up and said, "Hey, Vince, chill out."
Can you seriously? First of all, they weren't even the favorite heading into that season. But can you list those names? Like, who are those people? Even I'm like, what? Who?
Nnamdi Asomugha was an All-Pro.
Nnamdi Asomugha was the most overpaid player in the history of the NFL. Who else?
Yeah, but we didn't know that then. At the time, everyone was
At
like,
the time,
"He's the
he
guy."
was a massive offseason
That was
signing.
the big signing. But
At
then
the
you
time,
list
everyone
like
was like,
Jason
he's
Babin
the next
and
Revis, is what people were
Rodgers
saying.
Cromartie. I mean,
Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie was a multiple Pro Bowler at corner. Vince Young, obviously, Ronnie Brown.
Vince Young was a backup quarterback. Ronnie Brown was a scrub.
Ronnie Brown was a top 5 pick and I believe a multiple 1,000-yard rusher.
I bet you they signed him at the minimum that year, but go ahead.
Steve Smith, who has
Which
a couple
one?
good years with the Giants.
Oh, God. come
Not
on.
Steve Smith Sr., the other Steve Smith.
No, it wasn't Carolina's Steve Smith.
No,
Yeah, the
so
other-
that's
it was the
Steve
other
Smith
one.
Sr. Yeah, the other
Vince
one.
Young screwed up, and I don't think until Vince Young said that, people were like, "Oh, that's a pretty good team." But then he took it to the next level. I don't think that they were that disappointing.
They were.
They were 8-8, and they had a 10. Their win total was 10 games, and they got 8 wins.
Well, yeah, they went from 10-6 to 8-8 while adding all those pieces.
Well, and the other part, too, is that was they didn't make the playoffs that year, and they didn't make the playoffs the next year, and that's when they fired Andy Reid. So it was like, this was the downslide here, the backslide. Then they hired Chip Kelly, and that was, they won 10-6 the first year, but then a disaster.
Who was the quarterback in 11? Was it? I know
Michael Vick.
it was supposed to be. How many did he play?
7 games.
Okay. And it was Cobb, the backup quarterback. But then again, I mean, they weren't a Super Bowl favorite, like an overwhelming favorite. Like my Bears were 3-1 favorite to win the whole thing. They're one of the great Super Bowl favorites of all time.
It was Vince Young was the backup because he's the one who made the declaration.
Was he second string?
Yeah,
so who else played for that team? Anyway, regardless, that you look back and like, well, what the heck were we? That's a classic. You think that they win in March, and those guys turned out to be not good.
Other disappointing teams were your most surprising team was the 99 Rams, the 01, but I thought even more the 02 Rams were really disappointing because that's when Kurt Warner was just benched, right? I don't even think it was an injury. He ended up getting replaced. And I think had to come, what was that?
He had a thumb injury
Okay.
that kind of derailed his entire career for a couple of years there, but Bolger basically took the job from him.
Right. And Bolger was really was good when he got the job. And
remember, Falk was super unhappy about his contract that year and causing all sorts of chaos behind the scenes.
yeah, and so like that was supposed to maybe be a dynasty, and it just sort of flittered out.
I would actually choose 01 because they were the biggest Super Bowl favorite of all time. They should have destroyed that Patriots team.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the greatest show on turf Rams were not that great in the postseason. They were always in these close defensive games. And I think I don't think they took that Patriots team seriously. So both those teams, I mean, they should have won 3-4 Super Bowls.
There you go.
By the way, Mike Vick was, okay, so Mike Vick did start most of that season. He was 7-6, and Vince Young played a little bit. But why am I not that disappointed? You know what it is?
What?
Because the Eagles won a Super Bowl in 2017, something you can't relate to at all, Maggie.
Well, of course not, but that's not what we're talking about.
So it's not disappointing if I have my championship T-shirt 6 years later.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. Of course this is disappointing. Also, Vince Young said dream team, and to Samter's point, there weren't a lot of people telling him like, hey man, chill out. It was like, yeah, we are.
No, it was so much like that Washington. Sean Payton said the other day.
Yeah, the 2000 Washington team.
Quote unquote dream team.
Yeah, Deion Sanders and Bruce Smith.
Adding free agents never helps. It's the most overrated thing in all of sports.
I don't know. It helped the Rams. It wasn't free agents. I mean, they traded for Stafford, but they brought on Odell.
Right, but they didn't. Who they added?
Jalen Ramsey they traded for.
Yeah, those were trades. But,
right, but
generally, like signing, there's a reason guys get to free agency. So I think it's the most overrated phenomenon in sports. And we're like, oh, we got this 33-year-old. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it right now. There's a certain 27-year-old running back who everyone's all excited about. Dalvin Cook's not helping anybody win a Super Bowl, Mike Samter.